I'm Bruce Karasik, co-founder of the Jewish Republican Alliance, talking to you from beautiful Southern California. Thank you for joining us today for another special edition of JRA Loudspeaker. We are thrilled to welcome Senator Marsha Blackburn to our show. We'll be speaking with Senator Blackburn in just a few minutes, but first, I had the privilege of having lunch with Senator Blackburn and about 10 other conservatives a few weeks ago at the Peninsula Hotel in Beverly Hills. When it comes to support for Israel and Jews in America, she has a stellar record, and she is consistently fighting for the important issues that mean so much to conservatives. I was impressed by how articulate, informed, and how hardworking she is. In fact, right after our lunch, she flew to Texas to visit the border. I am very grateful that she is in the Senate during this very difficult time for Jews and for all Americans. My friends, what is going on in college campuses across our nation is shameful, disgusting, and unacceptable. Jewish students are being blocked from attending classes, sent home, harassed, threatened, spat upon, exposed to anti-Semitic graffiti, and disrespected as if this was Germany in 1938. Allowing these pro-Hamas thugs to flourish can only lead to more violence and increased terrorism. I am receiving emails and calls from concerned Jewish parents who fear for their children's safety. And the chancellor at UCLA had the nerve to put out a letter blaming the pro-Israel group for the violence. Many of the people on campus are not even students, and many are being brainwashed by leftist propaganda. Parents of UCLA students have told me that someone was knocking on sorority doors, asking, "Is this the Jewish sorority?" There have been physical shoving of students who tried to pass the barricaded areas. When trying to enter in the main hall, the Royce Hall, to attend class, Jewish students were met with a blockade and a sign directing them to go another way, while simultaneously they were letting in privileged people with wristbands. A Jewish student was tased. Many of the people in the barricaded areas in front of the pro-Hamas signs were carrying what appeared to be intimidating shields. They completely defaced beautiful buildings at UCLA with pro-Hamas graffiti, which is heartbreaking. Any president or chancellor of a university who allows this to continue needs to be fired and punished. If this was happening to any other group other than the Jews, it would have been universally condemned and stopped. Do not send Jewish students home. Send in the National Guard. Send in the police, and do whatever is necessary to protect Jewish students. Most, if not all, Republicans in the Senate and the House are steadfast supporters of Jews and Israel's. Many Democrats on the left are not. Joe Biden has enriched Iran and attempted to win over Muslim voters and has betrayed Jews and Israel with his misleading statements about how Israel is conducting the war. Let me be clear. Joe Biden's statements and the statements from his administration has legitimized Hamas. He has called for Prime Minister Netanyahu to be subject to early elections. And I call on Jews and Christians all across America to demand action now, and start a crackdown on those anti-Semitic rioters and thugs taking control of our universities. If we have learned anything from the past, and most recently 9/11, we cannot allow lawlessness to fester, because these same people who are attacking Jews today will almost certainly be attacking other Americans tomorrow. I thank you all for being here. And now it is my privilege to introduce to you, from Franklin, Tennessee, fellow JRA co-founder Mitch Silberman. Mitch?
Thank you so much, Bruce. I love your speeches. I'm going to share with you a funny yet true story that happened a little over a month ago. As most of you know, we now live in the Nashville area, And my wife, Stephanie, found a pharmacist that she happens to love. And she told me how much she loves this pharmacist at a local CVS. I said, that's great. So one day she said, hey, do me a favor. On the way home from work, please pick up a prescription for me. No problem. So I go there and I'm looking for the pharmacist. And all I know is she's a young Indian woman, probably around 40 years old. So I walk in and she said, how can I help you? And I said, oh, my wife, Stephanie, loves you. And we start talking and chit-chatting. And she says to me out of nowhere, I still don't know how this came up, but she says, what do you think about President Trump? I said, I love him. He's great. And she said, me too. We had this little, it was just fantastic. So I leave and I'm all excited. About a week later, I had to stop in at the same pharmacy to pick up a prescription for one of our dogs. And I'm walking in looking to see her, and I don't see her. Instead, I see a young Muslim woman behind the counter wearing a hijab. So I said, hey, is the pharmacist here? She said, oh, yeah, she's in the back. She's coming through right now. So she walks in, the pharmacist, and I said to her, is this the Trump conference? And we start talking and smiling. And then I swear to God, she turns to the young Muslim woman and she says, she's a Trump girl too. So the three of us are having this love fest over President Trump. And I left and I looked up, I said, thank you, God. Maybe only in Nashville. I mean, it sounds like a joke, right? A Jew, a Muslim, and an Indian walk into a pharmacy, but it's so true. Now, why do I share this with you? If you're watching this broadcast, I know you probably have the answer to this question. Of all the states in the union, which one has the most registered Republicans? That's right, California, which means if you live in California, you are literally surrounded by more Republicans than I am in red Tennessee. So I want to encourage you to start having conversations with strangers. I don't care if you're at the gym, you're at the grocery store, you're in an Uber, just have conversations and just be open to where the breadcrumbs lead you. Because one of the very foundational pillars why we created the Jewish Republican Alliance is fellowship. You need to know you're not alone. The people out there, they also need to know that they are not alone, right? There is strength in numbers. I mean, if you think of the power of AA, you need to know you're not alone. You need help from others. So I want to encourage you to have these conversations. Now, don't be crazy and just run around saying MAGA, MAGA, because that may not end well. But I'll give you a real life example. Last week, I had a Zoom meeting with a very dear client of mine in New York. He's a CPA. I don't know where he stands politically. I know he's not a radical lefty, but I don't know where he stands politically. So we're having our meeting, and I said, so Mike, New York is in the news a lot lately. That's where he lives. And he says, yeah, and we're talking about the Trump trials. And then I said, Mike, is the illegal immigration issue really that big over there? I mean, is it affecting you personally? And then he responded, he says, well, the migrants, blah, blah, blah. The moment he said the word migrants, I said, okay, probably not going to go any further in this conversation. So you have to pick up on these clues. You can do it as well. Maybe chat with someone and ask them, isn't it terrible what's going on at these college campuses? And see where that conversation leads you. I think you're going to find you really are not alone, especially now. You need to know your allies. You need to know that we are not alone because November 5th is literally 6 months from now. Now, by the way, just as a side note, I'm not encouraging you to have arguments or belittle people or create enemies. But if someone says something that you find kind of startling about this October 7th or the campus situation, how about this? How about saying to them, so you're going with the side that beheads babies and rapes women and kills families? Put them on the defensive, let them defend him. Well, it's complicated and the Israel is oppressive and blah, blah, blah. And again, you can just say, so, okay, just so I'm clear, the side that beheads babies and rapes women and kills families, that's who you're going with. Okay, got it. Clarity is power. So listen, you've got 6 months, start reaching out, find your allies. It's kind of like the old AT&T commercial, right? Which is reach out and touch someone. And now I have distinct honor and privilege of introducing our esteemed guest. Senator, you have such a long resume. I had to whittle it down a little bit for time's sake, but your background is so impressive. Marsha Blackburn was elected to the U.S. Senate in 2018 and is currently serving her first term representing the great state of Tennessee. Yes, I'm biased. Before her election to the Senate, Marsha represented Tennessee's 7th congressional district. She's not a career politician. She went to college on a 4-H scholarship and worked her way through school selling books for the Southwestern company as one of their first female sales associates and later as one of their first female sales managers. She then became director of retail fashion and special events for the Kastner Knott Company, which was a Nashville-based regional department store. Later, Marsha found her own business, Marketing Strategies. She began her career in public service in 1995 when she was named executive director of the Tennessee Film, Entertainment, and Music Commission. In 1998, she was elected to the Tennessee State Senate. In the state legislature, she earned a reputation for fiscal responsibility and government accountability by identifying waste and offering realistic solutions to Tennessee's budget challenges. While serving in the Tennessee Senate, Marsha led a statewide grassroots campaign to defeat a proposed state income tax. So I personally thank you for that. The tax was defeated, and Marsha's leadership earned her a reputation as an anti-tax champion. In 2014, the people of Tennessee passed an amendment to the state constitution to expressly prohibit a state income tax.
Senator Blackburn, welcome to our show. We are so grateful for your support of Jews and Israel during this very difficult time, and also grateful for the new legislation that you have introduced with Tim Scott, Katie Britt, John Conran, and Joni Ernst, who my son also interned for Joni last spring. But I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about that bill that you introduced. I'm getting calls from concerned parents here at UCLA and all over the country about the safety of their kids. And if this passes, will Joe Biden sign it, and will Senator Schumer pass it as well?
Well, we do not know what the posture is going to be from the Democrat side of the aisle. I will say we were pleased that yesterday Senator Schumer finally came out with a statement condemning these actions. We are 10 days into this chaos and unrest here on college campuses. And bear in mind, as we had talked earlier, Senator Rosen and I passed legislation back in November which condemned the anti-Semitic activity on college campuses. And of course, we have to realize this has continued to grow and has been in this fever pitch of encampments and protests on these college campuses. Now, we have several provisions that are moving forward. You mentioned the one that pertains to federal funding for universities. And if these universities are not going to move forward stopping this activity, then by all means, their federal funds should be restricted, because what they're doing is allowing an unsafe environment to not only persist, but to grow. We think that is a very dangerous thing. There is also a move, and I've worked on this, Marco Rubio has worked on this, where students that are foreign students that are here on visas, if they're participating in these riots and these protests and participating in this pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas activity, their visa should be revoked. They should be deported immediately and barred from ever coming back into the United States. Also, we are working on a provision whereby students who are on federal student loans, which are underpinned by the U.S. taxpayer, if they are out there protesting, shouting "Death to America, I am Hamas," then we would pull that student loan. They would lose that student loan. The other thing that I have recommended that we do, and we're working through the approach on this now, and it is, if you have these students, whether they're foreign or U.S. students, and they are self-identifying as terrorists, they are saying, "I am Hamas. We are Hamas," making any of these statements, these students must be believed. They are telling us that they are Hamas. Thereby, we must put them on the terrorist watch list and on the no-fly list. They will never be able to get on a U.S. airplane.
Love it, love it, love it. I have to share with you, Senator Blackburn, it was such an honor to meet you. I had moved here for maybe a month or so, and I spent 59 years of my life having two senators that I didn't vote for, that I didn't care for, that didn't want me around. And so what I want to ask you is, our audience doesn't just live in Tennessee or California or New York. They're all over the US. Please share with us the important work you're doing that helps not just the great state of Tennessee, but everyone watching this show. What is it you're doing to help America?
Oh, well, we have such a list of things that we're doing to really improve the lives. I like to say, and we talked about this, Mitch, I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody that wants to make the lives of Tennesseans and indeed all Americans better. And I do a lot of work across the aisle. I sit on 4 different committees: Finance, Judiciary, Commerce, Science and Transportation, and Veterans Affairs. And at our Finance Committee, we're doing a good bit of work on tax, on trade, on healthcare, which we oversee, making certain that our rural hospitals are able to provide the health care they need to provide to people that may be in unserved areas. And I like to say our goal should, the question we should ask and then answer, find a solution to answer, is how do we preserve access to affordable health care for all Americans? How do we increase those access points and those touch points? At the Senate Judiciary Committee, we are quite focused on what is happening at the southern border and making certain that we get that border secured. We're all very concerned about the numbers of people. You know, in the last couple of years, Border Patrol has reported that there were people from 170 different countries that cross that southern border. We have had so many people from countries of interest. We have had just thousands of people from countries of interest. Maybe it's Iraq or Iran or Pakistan or different countries. Last year, we had 24,000 and something Chinese nationals come across the southern border. Most of them were young, single men. And then this year, so far in the first 6 months of the fiscal year, we have had, believe it or not, nearly 25,000 come across already this year. So that southern border is of concern. We keep pushing for action to secure that southern border. We're very disappointed that the Senate Judiciary Committee has not taken up H.R. 2, which is the border security bill. And what we need right now is not looking at the effects of illegal immigration first, but we have to look at that border security provision first. And by the way, we have a Border Patrol reports they have captured nearly 400 individuals that are on the terrorist watch list at that southern border trying to enter the country. Also, I do a good bit of work that kind of spans the bridge from judiciary to commerce, and it's on the virtual space. And I have legislation that is currently going to the president's desk for signing. It is the Report Act, which puts a mandate on social media platforms to report the trafficking when they've got people on the platforms that are trafficking, have pornographic, CSAM, child sexual abuse material, exploitative material, but working with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, and providing a longer time for retention, a mandate on these social media platforms that they must report these pedophiles and predators to the NCMEC cyber tip line. and then allowing all of this information to be transferred by the cloud and without having to print it all out or put it on a thumb drive. What we're trying to do is assist prosecutors and judges to get these people into the courtroom, get them convicted, get them in prison, and get them away from our children.
Fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. That is amazing, Senator Blackburn. You've been really busy introducing legislation, and we support what you're doing 100%. There's another bill that you have introduced with Senator Tom Tillis that is put together to prevent and stop those who are obstructing commerce or delaying commerce or blocking public highways. Can you tell us a little bit about that bill? And then
Yes.
the second part to the question is, what do I tell the parents of these Jewish students here who are in such fear of their students' lives? If this stuff doesn't pass, what is their second option? So it's a kind of a two-part question.
Yeah, exactly. The Safe and Open Streets Act is what Senator Tillis and I have passed. And this is an important piece because it would put a federal penalty in place for people that are blocking interstates and bridges and entrances to airports and carrying out a protest in that manner. They're not peacefully protesting. They're not doing it in the public square. They didn't go get a permit to carry out the protest. They are defying the law and they're blocking public transit. And of course, we hear every time they do this, we hear the stories of emergency vehicles that cannot get to people, individuals that cannot get to elderly or children or get them to school, people that miss their flights, can't get to the airport, can't get to the train station. So this would put a federal penalty there. And in response to what do you say to the parents, I think that we're going to see a lot of parents begin looking for a new school because it is just, I cannot believe, first of all, that in 2024, we are hearing people on college campuses identify with terrorists. We are hearing that agitators and outside organizers, professional organizers, organizations that are tied to Hamas, and that they are moving onto these college campuses and in a very professional way, setting up these new tents, bringing in equipment, providing chains and locks to lock doors. This is not something that kids would be doing on their own. First of all, they don't have this equipment just sitting around. This is very dangerous. These college presidents should be ashamed of themselves. Every single school, every single university has a code of conduct. They have rules that you are going to abide by. When you break the rules, you are disciplined. Many times you're suspended or you're expelled. But they are so shy about and timid in moving forward with any type of corrective action that, they finally get to the point they're calling in the police because they can't take control. I really appreciated what Ben Sass from Florida said. We're not a daycare. And if you come here and you're a student here and you break the rules, you will be disciplined. If it calls for suspension, you will be suspended. If it calls for expulsion, you will be expelled.
Great. Senator, I hope we have time. One more question. If you read the newspaper, you read how these dastardly Republicans are passing all these bills and laws targeting transgender students and taking away their rights because they're masters at manipulating the language. I know you're a champion of stopping what's going on with Title IX or the way it's turning into. Please explain the correct thinking about why you're so passionate about Title IX versus what the media tells people to think about it.
Yeah, Title IX is there to protect women's sports. It was signed into law 51 years ago. And it has been in place to open doors of opportunity for women. That is why you have women's college basketball that is incredibly popular right now. It's why you will have a women's golf team, a women's tennis team, and it allows growing that farm team, if you will, and allowing women that are really good and competitive to move on to pro sports. It also allows girls that are in high school to compete for college sports. Well, the Biden administration, on their own and through the rules, decided they were going to change Title IX. And it no longer would be for biological women. They have rewritten Title IX, which, as I said, that was passed by Congress. So through the rule process, they are going in and rewriting it and changing it to say that it is for anyone who identifies as a female. Completely different. So what you will have is teams for men, and then teams that may have some biological females, but also will have biological males who are saying they identify as a female. Now, what this will do is shut doors of opportunity for women. It will reduce the number of scholarships that are there for girls and women, and it will limit their opportunity to advance in sporting fields.
Terrific. Thank you.
Sure.
I think people don't know behind the scenes about how hard you and your staff work. You have a tremendous staff.
Yeah.
We met in Beverly Hills. People don't know you flew right from our meeting lunch right to Texas with all the delays and the air flight delays to help secure our border.
Right.
And we're concerned that the people coming into this country are not good for our country. They want to hurt America. And a lot of these people on the college campuses that are rioting are not even students. They're people that don't belong here. How can we get them out?
Well, what we're going to have to do is focus first on the criminal illegal aliens. And when local law enforcement apprehends someone who is in the country illegally, I have a bill, the CLEAR Act, which will allow local law enforcement to detain that individual, call ICE, get them deported. Then ICE has to pay that local law enforcement agency back for every penny that they spent in the apprehension, the detention, and the deporting of that individual, because local law enforcement is doing the job that the federal government did not do. My legislation also would deny federal funds for sanctuary cities that are not abiding by U.S. immigration law. That, I think, would be a good, solid first step. And anyone that law enforcement comes in contact with and detains or apprehends and finds out they're in the country illegally, they would be able to hold that person.
Senator, I want to thank you. I know you have a very busy schedule. We can't thank you enough. You're fighting not just for Tennessee, you're fighting for America. Frankly, you're fighting for Israel and the world, and we thank you.
Yes, I am.
Deeply appreciative.
We are just so
on.
blessed to be able to do that. And I hope your audience will keep up with me at marshablackburn.com.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Senator. All the best.
Be
Thank
well.
you.
God bless.
You too.
So, Bruce, I want to thank you for, isn't it ironic? I live in Franklin, Tennessee. Senator Blackburn lives in Franklin, Tennessee. Who got her on the show? Bruce from Thousand Oaks. What a
Well,
terrific
let me tell you,
guest.
I truly admire her and what she's doing. She is so articulate, so well-spoken, so informed. You could ask her about any subject. She is ready to talk about it.
She's right.
And not only great, what's also
She's
great about
correct.
her, and I know you know this too, Mitch, is I agree with everything she said.
Exactly. Well, listen, Dennis Prager is famous for saying, you're not going to agree with everything that someone's running for office. He goes, if you want someone running for office that you agree with 100% of the time, then you run for office.
Right.
And then,
No,
so,
no,
you know,
exactly.
do we agree everything? No, but my goodness, her positions are so correct, so thoughtful, so convincing. I would love some of our left-leaning friends to hear her speak and tell me, what did you object to that she just said? Tell me, right?
Well, they probably would object to everything. They would have probably, argue in favor of Hamas, argue in favor of illegal aliens. It's come down to this country where not only do we disagree on positions, but we actually disagree on facts.
We disagree on reality.
Yeah, and on reality. And what is reality? And I can't tell you with all literally I'm getting phone calls and emails from concerned is an understatement, terrified parents who have their children at these universities being harassed and threatened. And it's so comforting to know that behind the scenes, Senator Blackburn is proposing the legislation that she discussed on this show that could change everything.
So
but
Bruce,
the
I have a question.
is, will Schumer block
Right.
it, and will Biden block it?
I have a question. When you say parents are calling you terrified, is it because their kids are terrified, or are the kids okay? The parents are, so the kids and the parents are terrified.
Both.
Okay.
The kids are in tears. They're sending the kids home. And imagine having, you sent your kids away to school. Imagine them being in a place where they're being threatened, tased, spat upon, blockade. It's blockaded. People are thinking like this is Germany 1938.
Yeah.
And, people like Marsha Blackburn and Tim Scott and Burgess Owens and Joni Ernst and others are doing,
and President Trump, they see what's going on.
But, if the local authorities don't do anything and the chancellors are puppets for these people and Joe Biden is out there doing nothing and Governor Newsom I don't hear him say anything, so, what are these people to do? And all the times they've invested all this money, and I want a degree from a major college like Columbia or Harvard, UCLA, and then you're going to ask them, pull them out and send them somewhere else. It's a difficult decision for them.
It is. It's very disruptive. But I have a few theories on this because, we've all heard this. So this is not just my observation, but if it was red MAGA hat people or the Ku Klux Klan doing this to Black people or Hispanic people, every liberal outlet and governor and elected official would shut it down in minutes. So why is it different now? And I think it's I don't know what percent to assign to each, Bruce, but it's partially, number one, this is their constituents, they kind of agree. And number two, I hate to say it, but hey, it's only the Jews, right? It's only the Jews. I mean, if it was any other people, but maybe the Jews have it coming, and it's mind-boggling to see this happening in real time. And the only good, I pray, that comes from this is people wake up and they realize. I mean, if you want to be sarcastic, and sometimes you need to be, you could say to your friends that vote Democrat, like, isn't it awful, all those Republicans, what they're doing on campus? And they're going to say, yeah, they're not Republicans. That's right. They're not Republicans. Who do you think these writers vote for? If they vote at all, who do you think they vote for? Not our party, your party.
Well, it's very true, Mitch. And, as you know, we're doing a live in-person luncheon with Alan Dershowitz on May the 10th here in Thousand Oaks. And one of the things that he said that I'm going to ask him about is these people on the college campuses, they're talking about attacking Jews now, but these people are being recruited to build this terrorist army that will eventually be attacking other Americans here in the United States.
Sure.
Somebody from Iran said these people are here now, and if there's ever a war, they're our allies.
Right.
So we're in a position that if we don't deport some of these people that don't belong here or put them in prison, we want to avoid another 9/11 or worse.
Yeah. I have another insight. I love dogs. I joke. I don't like dogs. I only have 3 of them, but
I love other people's dogs.
Wonderful. So one of the most notorious reputations are pit bulls. Pit bulls happen to be very sweet dogs. They are incredibly sweet. However, if a pit bull viciously attacks someone else, I can tell you one thing for sure, legally and ethically and factually, that pit bull was trained to attack. Okay. The owner trained that pit bull to attack. These kids, many of them are ignorant, many of them are fools. They were trained to hate Jews. They were trained to hate Israel. By who? Sometimes the parents, but most likely it's the teachers. So these kids that we're seeing is a product of the hatred they've been taught by the public and now private school system. And I think there's no other way to honestly look at that.
Well, unfortunately now we have, to use your pit bull analogy, we have, we have dogs out there that are trained to hate and kill, and they're on the loose. And so typically if you have if you're walking in a neighborhood and you see a pack of pit bulls that are, not trained to be good, you don't want to walk down that street. And unfortunately, there are more and more streets where people can't walk down anymore.
That's right.
And so it's really important that this is taken control of right away before this gets even worse. And I know we always say, how could it get even worse? And it
Don't
does.
ask.
And it does.
It does.
And I don't know your thoughts, but if there's two kinds of wars going on in the Middle East right now. There's the actual war against Hamas, but there's also the public relations war. And I am really concerned that Joe Biden and his administration's comments, their misleading comments, have legitimized Hamas by insinuating that they're purposely committing genocide, killing innocent civilians, when in fact, they're doing everything they can to avoid that.
Well, not only that, but this regime is funding both sides of the war. I feel very passionately that people that voted for Biden have blood on their hands. And I know it's a bold statement, but listen, fact, Obama gave Iran billions of dollars. Fact, Biden released billions of dollars. Fact, what did Iran do with that money? Did they build hospitals? Did they distribute food? They're building weapons to be used against, you got it, Israel. So they are funding both sides. The media is, I read something last week that astonished me, Bruce. It said essentially, and it was a USA Today owned publication, that said that Biden is having trouble with his base because of how staunchly pro-Israel he is. I was astonished. If you're in the know, you realize his administration is anything but pro-Israel.
Well, of course, he's doing it for votes. It's an election year. And, their job, what they're trying to do is get reelected. And they'll do anything to get reelected. It's not principle-based. And now they're using the federal government that Charlie Kirk was talking about the other day on his show, that the Biden administration is now using federal government resources and staff to ballot harvest for them and to pick up ballots and make sure they get all the Democrat ballots in and voted the way they want them to vote. Republicans, I've been saying for years, are running on issues and they're running on collecting ballots. And that's very concerning. If this administration stays in power, what's going to happen to America? And as we talked about with Marsha Blackburn, what's going to be happening to Jews?
Well, historically, Jews in Israel have been the canary in the coal mine.
Yes.
And it never stops with Israel. It never stops with the Jews. It is, the one thing that Marsha Blackburn, I guess by necessity has to be a little diplomatic, but I forgot what she called these leaders, but I have a different word, cowardly. They're cowards. They're unwilling. And the other thing too, and I really encourage our audience to ask this of people that vote Democrat. You say, Bruce, you just mentioned that Biden's trying to court his voters. And I say, so let me get this straight. What does it say about an administration that is actively courting the vote of those that chant death to America and death to Israel? What does that say about the guy you want to vote for, that he's hoping to get their vote? Death to America, death to Jews, and he wants their vote?
No, exactly. But then they go around to the neighborhoods and chant, January 6th, January 6th, sign right here, vote for Biden. You don't want Trump, stop him, stop him. And that's all they have to do. And all the issues that we just talked about are not even on their mind. you know, and they go into facilities, you probably have people on respirators that are unconscious, and suddenly they have the ability to vote.
Well,
So
it's
I
that
don't know.
old joke, right? I can't believe my grandpa voted for Biden. He never would have done that when he was
He never would
alive.
have done that when he was alive.
Exactly.
Well, Mitch, it's been a great show. Thank
Yes,
you,
as always.
for joining us. I'm so glad that we had this great interview with your senator, Senator
Yes.
Blackburn from Nashville. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. A lot of things are happening with the Jewish Republican Alliance. We're going to be announcing the release of our new website coming up later this month. Hopefully, we're almost done with it. Our new software system. We have a great event out here in Thousand Oaks with Alan Dershowitz, and there's still tickets left. So go on our website, jewishrepublicanalliance.org, and get your tickets fast. We're almost sold out. And if you like the work we're doing and you share our values and you find it in your heart, go to our website, jewishrepublicanalliance.org, and make a tax-deductible donation today. Thank you all for joining us. Until we meet again, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye for now.